You want to hear a crazy story? The kind that makes you look at the whole game sideways and wonder what kind of mess these stars are really caught up in? Forget the private jets and the platinum plaques for a minute, because this ain't about music. This is about a blood feud that got so nasty, so personal, it crawled its way right out of the streets and straight into a federal courtroom. We're talking about the biggest rap beef in history, the one between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and how the aftermath of that whole war is now bigger, uglier, and way more scandalous than anyone ever imagined. Think about it. Two heavyweights, both under the same giant umbrella, Universal Music Group, and one of them gets annihilated by a diss track so venomous, so popular, it broke records, won a Grammy, and got performed for over 100 million people at the Super Bowl. That track, Kendrick's Not Like Us, the one that hit Drake below the belt, accusing him of the darkest stuff imaginable, calling him a certified pedophile, saying he like S.M. Young. Now, here's where the street lights dim and the shadows get long. Drake just walked back into the ring, not with a song, but with a legal filing, appealing the dismissal of a massive lawsuit he brought against his own label, UMG. He's basically saying, you, my own company, you knew those accusations were false, you knew they were poison, and you didn't just let them fly, you put a jet engine on them. That's the hook, the kind of betrayal you can't make up. A superstar suing his corporate parent for promoting the thing that tried to ruin his life. It went down today, October 29th, a formal notice of appeal, a signal fire that this war is far from over. The first judge, Judge Jeanette Vargas, threw the whole thing out on October 9th. Her 38-page ruling, which reads like a legal thesis on the rap game, said Kendrick's lyrics were just protected opinion, not real defamation. She said, look, this was a rap battle, a war of words, and the reasonable listener knows a diss track is full of fire and hyperbole, not objective facts. She told Drake, essentially, you started the fire, you can't run to the courts when the flames get too hot. But you know Drake, he doesn't take an L quietly. This appeal is his way of saying, you got it wrong, Judge. This wasn't just a diss. This was a corporate assassination attempt, and I have the receipts. His legal team is arguing that UMG's actions went way beyond just letting an artist express himself. They are claiming a conscious, deliberate, intentional publishing and promotion campaign, one that knew the false and defamatory nature of the claims and chose to profit off the destruction of their other artist's career. Imagine that meeting in the UMG boardroom. One half of the room is celebrating 1 billion streams for Not Like Us. The other half is staring at the fact that the song is calling their biggest cash cow a monster. The greed is what Drake is pointing at, the corporate hunger that apparently trumps all loyalty, all morality, all sense of right and wrong. The original lawsuit, filed back in January 2025, wasn't just about hurt feelings. It was about damage. Drake claimed that UMG not only knew the accusations were false, the kind of stuff that can get a person locked up, or worse, but they actively helped push the narrative. Remember, this isn't two artists on different small labels. Drake is on Republic Records, Kendrick is on Interscope, and both are housed under the colossal Universal Music Group. That's why the lawsuit was so shocking. It was an inside job, a betrayal from the very people sworn to protect and promote him. Drake's complaint wasn't some weak stuff either. It claimed UMG engaged in deceptive practices that basically rigged the game. He alleged they used bots and something called payola, that old-school, under-the-table system of paying to get a song played, to artificially inflate the song's popularity. The thought of a major label, a corporate giant, using illegal tactics to make a diss track that defames one of their biggest stars a commercial hit? That's not just rap beef, that's a mob story with a soundtrack. The sheer volume of the success is staggering, and that's the fuel for Drake's fire. Over 1.7 billion streams on Spotify alone. A Super Bowl halftime show performance in 2025 watched by 133.5 million people, all hearing the world's biggest new song that branded Drake a predator. His lawyers are arguing, how can you call that non-actionable opinion when it's literally being shouted from the world's biggest stage? The judge is ruling that the court must read the songs together to understand the context of the rap battle is what Drake's team is looking to dismantle on appeal. They're saying, yeah, rap battles are heated, but there are lines you don't cross, and when an accusation is this severe, this specific, this criminal, the context of a rap battle shouldn't give $1 billion corporation immunity. It's like saying, because two guys are fighting on the street, it's okay for a bystander to hand one of them a loaded gun. That's the core of the fight. Can a major label hide behind the artistic expression of a diss track when they are the ones financially turbocharging its success to the detriment of another client? The judge dismissed the claims about bots and payola too, saying Drake's evidence was weak, relying on tweets by individual users and reporting from fans. That's where the appeal gets interesting, because the assumption is that Drake's team now has to come with harder proof, the kind of evidence that only internal documents can reveal. You know UMG's lawyers are sweating bullets, praying the appellate court agrees with the first judge. If the Second Circuit Court of Appeal says, you know what, Drake has a point, let's look closer, then this whole thing moves into the discovery phase. Discovery is where the lawyers get to demand emails, texts, internal memos, and meeting notes. That's the real cliffhanger. Because if they get into those UMG files, we could see exactly who knew what, who pushed the buttons, and who gave the green light to profit off of a character assassination. It could expose the dark underbelly of how streaming numbers are made and how cutthroat the industry really is. This ain't just Drake's reputation on the line. It's the whole industry's reputation about to get dragged through the mud. The shockwaves from the original lawsuit were already massive. We heard whispers that Drake's complaint directly tied the promotion of Not Like Us to attempts on his personal safety. The documents claim the track incited violence and led to things like attempted break-ins and even the shooting of a security guard at his Toronto home. Think about that for a second. A song, a diss track, is being legally blamed for real-life attacks and violence. That takes this whole rap beef out of the studio and into something truly terrifying. And Drake is pointing the finger not at the artist who wrote the words, but the corporation that made sure every kid on the planet heard them. UMG's response to the original dismissal was cold, almost dismissive. From the outset, this suit was an affront to all artists and their creative expression and never should have seen the light of day. They called it a misguided attempt by Drake to salve his wounds after he lost a rap battle that he provoked. Translation: take the L, sit down, and keep making us money. That corporate arrogance is what fuels Drake's fire. He's not just fighting Kendrick anymore. He's fighting the machine, the very system that created him, the one that's now trying to crush him and then gaslight him into thinking he's just a sore loser. But Drake's spokesperson was quick with the clapback, saying they intended to appeal and look forward to the Court of Appeals reviewing it. That was the shot across the bow, and today's filing is the torpedo. The Second Circuit appeal process is slow, tedious, and brutal. It's going to take months, meaning this drama, this fight for Drake's very identity and the rules of the rap game, could stretch all the way into 2026. This isn't a summer beef that fades with the weather. This is a long, drawn-out legal trench warfare. The stakes are impossibly high. If Drake wins this appeal, the floodgates open. It sets a precedent that could paralyze the entire music industry. Every label executive would have to think twice before promoting any contentious track, fearing they could be held liable for defamation. It would fundamentally change the rules of the game, putting a real legal limit on the fire and fury that's always been the lifeblood of hip-hop. But if Drake loses again, it validates Judge Vargas's ruling, cementing the idea that in a rap battle, the gloves are completely off, and a record label can profit from any attack, no matter how damaging or false the accusation. It basically gives the industry a license to print money from destruction. It all boils down to whether the appellate court sees Not Like Us as art or as a hit piece that was corporately amplified. Drake's lawyers aren't arguing that Kendrick shouldn't be allowed to rap. They're arguing that UMG shouldn't be allowed to use their massive corporate power, their algorithms, their payola connections, to make a defamatory lie the biggest song on the planet. They're trying to carve a legal distinction between a rapper dropping a diss track and a massive corporation strategically deploying it as a weapon against one of its other employees. This is a story about the intersection of art, commerce, and pure malice, and the whole world is waiting to see who walks away with the victory and what wreckage they leave behind. The air is thick with anticipation. You can feel the tension building, like the moment right before the beat drops on a classic diss track. What hidden files will surface? What shocking details about the label's inner workings will come out? Drake may have lost the rap battle, but this appeal means he's not just a casualty. He's a general who's decided to take the fight to the enemy's homeland, the courtroom, And this time, he's coming armed with lawyers and a demand for a very specific kind of justice that could cost UMG billions and change hip-hop forever. The biggest question hanging in the air is this: how far is a corporation willing to go for 1 billion streams, and is there any line they won't cross? Drake is about to force them to answer, and that answer is going to be explosive. We're all just waiting for the next legal brief to drop, because that's the new diss track, and it's going to be packed with the kind of hard evidence that a judge can't call rhetorical hyperbole. The game has changed, and the next few months will decide if the street rules still apply when the money is this big. The fact that the accusations at the heart of a song, the part that called him a certified pedophile and suggested a neighborhood watch, are claims that carry real-world criminal weight, is the heavy anchor of Drake's argument. Judge Vargas said a reasonable listener would understand the lyrics as hyperbole because of the context of the beef. But Drake's legal team must be preparing to argue that those specific words transcend the context of rap. They are not like calling someone soft or a fake gang member, which are common rap battle insults. These are specific, highly illegal, and career-ending accusations. The legal debate here is less about the First Amendment protecting artistic expression and more about the boundaries of corporate responsibility. Drake's camp likely believes that even if Kendrick is protected by the First Amendment for his art, UMG is not protected for its commerce. UMG is a distributor and promoter, not the artist, and their deliberate, profit-driven amplification of a known false statement of fact, the criminal charge of pedophilia, which Drake denies, is what constitutes the defamation. That's the crack they're trying to widen on appeal, the difference between a rapper saying something over a beat and a global corporation pouring millions into making that thing a cultural phenomenon, especially when they have an explicit duty of care to all their artists. The court rejected the argument that Not Like Us should be assessed in isolation from the other tracks. The judge insisted that the entire 16-day back and forth, the whole war of words, had to be considered. This includes Drake's own diss tracks, which had their own incendiary and shocking claims about Kendrick's family. The judge's reasoning was that both sides were trading blows, and an audience familiar with the drama would view the content as part of a theatrical performance, not a news report. But Drake's lawyers will surely counter that argument by pointing out the specific, irreparable nature of the pedophilia claim, arguing that it is simply not in the same league as other beef insults. They will stress that such an accusation is the ultimate career and life killer, a line that even in the theatrical realm of rap battles, retains its factual sting in a way that other insults do not. When you consider the sheer financial success of the track, the nearly 2 billion streams, and the Grammy win, a symbol of institutional validation, it becomes harder to argue that it was simply a fleeting piece of rhetorical hyperbole. The track became a permanent, celebrated cultural artifact, which is exactly why Drake is fighting this dismissal so hard. For him, the corporation not only allowed the attempted character assassination, they gave it a Lifetime Achievement Award. The claims of payola and bot use, though dismissed due to what the court called insufficient evidence, are the most dangerous part of this entire ordeal for UMG. Drake's lawsuit alleged violations of New York General Business Law Section 349, which deals with deceptive business practices. If the appellate court allows this claim to be revived, demanding a deeper look into the evidence, it opens the door to exposing corporate fraud that extends far beyond this rap battle. Imagine the fallout if internal UMG communications confirm that they did, in fact, pay radio stations or use streaming farms, bots, to make Not Like Us look bigger than it was. That would be a scandal that would rock the whole music world, raising questions about the legitimacy of every chart-topping song and every major label's promotional machine. It would confirm the darkest suspicions that fans have had for years, that the numbers are rigged, and that the biggest companies are playing a dirty game of smoke and mirrors. The lawsuit is Drake's vehicle to find the truth, to force the company that seemingly turned on him to reveal its secrets. The judge ruled that there was no private right of action for harassment in the New York law, another technical hurdle Drake's team will have to overcome in the Second Circuit. They're trying to connect the dots between the track's promotion, the alleged harassment, and the real-world violence it incited, including the shooting of a security guard. They are trying to convince the appellate court that the corporate behavior was so egregious and so clearly a danger to their client that it should constitute a claim, regardless of the narrow statutory interpretation of the original court. The whole thing is a high-stakes chess match played by the biggest players with the deepest pockets. UMG's statement after the dismissal that they look forward to continuing our work successfully promoting Drake's music and investing in his career is the ultimate corporate sleight of hand. It's the company saying, "We were just doing our job with Kendrick, and we'll go right back to making you money now. So let's forget this ever happened." But Drake is not interested in forgetting. He's interested in accountability, and the filing of this appeal is his definitive rejection of that corporate peace offering. He's taking the scorched earth approach, choosing a long, expensive, and messy court battle over a quiet corporate handshake. The fact that this could stretch into 2026 means this beef is going to be the backdrop of hip-hop for years to come, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the shiny surface of fame and fortune. This isn't just a legal fight over a song, it's a fight for the soul of the industry, and every new piece of paper filed is a chapter in the most explosive drama the music world has ever seen, leaving us all hanging, waiting for the next shocking reveal. The streets are watching, and the clock is ticking on UMG. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on the story.